Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. Things are almost complete here building the office, so thankfully I can make my last Jung video for now, and that is on the Anima and Animus. So this is probably one of the more convoluted, complicated, and misunderstood components of Jung's teachings, and it's a bit of a shame because it's not difficult. It's actually a lot easier to understand than the shadow, which the shadow, according to Jung, he said that was the apprentice piece. Confronting and absorbing your shadow is the apprentice work in individual development. The masterpiece is absorbing the anima or animus, depending on if you're a man or woman, because the anima is sort of the qualities of a man that are feminine. And see, that's where people start messing up. They start thinking about toxic masculinity and embracing the woman inside you or identifying and all this stuff, when really it's more about the components about you that are that could be regarded as feminine, as emotional, as nurturing, and more importantly, and this is the really important bit when it comes to individual development, and we see a huge lack thereof in modern times, and that is how to pick someone in your life who complements those traits. Uh, I would argue, and this is subjective, but I would argue that the vast majority of relationships in modernity are toxic, the vast majority, and a lot of it are young men raised by single moms picking women whom they can, for lack of a better word, sorry about that, worship rather than uh, have a relationship with, rather than complementing their personality. Instead, what we have is someone who either takes advantage or is uninterested entirely. It's where the whole cuck concept comes from, really. And likewise with women, if you think about it, a man's anima is the sum total of all the women in their life, starting with their mother, including their grandmother, even including their ancestors, because of the collective unconscious of women that they never even personally met, but whose wisdom and whose traits have been passed on either genetically or mimetically through the family. Maybe it's your great grandma's brownie recipe, or maybe it's your great 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 grandma's nose bridge. But you inherited things from all the women you descended from, and you inherited mimetically from all the female teachers and role models and other individuals that you had growing up. And I think where things get unhealthy is the modern perspective, where women are on these pedestals and they're revered, and simultaneously, it almost, people argue about the Middle Ages having that whore virgin obsession, but really now it's, women are simultaneously stronger than men, better than men, smarter than men, but they're also just a warm, wet orifice. And we see that a lot in modern times, the way that women are portrayed. They're simultaneously deified and objectified in a really odd, masochistic kind of way. And likewise, when it comes to women, I've noticed that in my generation in particular, women really go after older men, and they often call them daddy, and it's very creepy. But similarly, the animus for women is the aggregate, the sum total of all the men that they've descended from, again, starting with the most pivotal figure, their father. Well, again, single motherhood is super common nowadays, and a lot of them don't have father figures at all. And so we end up in this weird purgatory state in terms of self actualization, not in terms of like existence entirely, but just understanding yourself. We end up in this weird purgatory where people are reaching out for these pop culture women and men, these notions, uh, these whole mommies, and these money daddies, and these odd two-dimensional things that we think is going to make us happy. And one, the the real the goal of a person in many respects should be a relationship for most people, but finding happiness and self-actualization, that comes with facing and uniting with the feminine or masculine, depending on your sex, within you. It comes from understanding who you are and what you want and the traits that you have that reflect that, and then looking for something that mirrors that appropriately. That is to say, overlaps, not a perfect opposite, obviously, overlaps in the right places, and alters in ways that complement one another. And even with that, even if you have no intention of a relationship, even if you're a flipping monk on a mountaintop, confronting the feminine or masculine within you is a way of understanding yourself and becoming whole yourself. It's not about getting in touch with your feminine side the way that so many new agey types view it, nor is it a way of finding a relationship in and of itself. It's more about finding out who you are and what you want. And I just realized I got the cord over my beard. It's about those sorts of things. It's about facing qualities of yourself that we often suppress because of cultural norms, mostly more quote unquote open norms rather than the toxic, hyper masculine view that I see stereotyped on TV. Very rarely do you actually come across that in real life. That's not to say it doesn't exist. I've seen plenty of horrific examples of that in real life, but for the most part, it's about understanding the feminine within a person. And from my perspective, it's about understanding the divine feminine and masculine. And we see this with modern paganism. There's such a fixation, largely because a lot of their demographics are, 13-year-old girls. And I'm trying not to be pejorative about it, but it is. But there's a real fixation on the moon and Dianean things and feminine things. Whereas if we look at antiquity, and even similarly, you see a lot of neo-pagans with this obsession with being solar and the sun and masculinity, when really the chthonic and celestial components. Now I'm straying from Jung and getting into Evola. It's about the unity between those. The earth can't bear fruit without the sun, but the sun shines on a barren wasteland without the earth. So it's about actualization. It's about unifying those things. Just as you would conform with the best parts of your shadow to become a better person, likewise you should unite rather than deny the best parts of the divine masculine or divine feminine within you in order to become a better person. I would argue a elevated animal and a fallen god simultaneously, rather than the view that you have to be one or the other. So that's my take on Jung, and that's the last of the Jung series for now. Like, share, subscribe, keep asking questions. Bye.